What was the most satisfying moment of your life? I lived in this crappy apartment building for 2 years where the landlord Dennis treated us like garbage. This guy would raise rent whenever he felt like it and ignore every single repair request we made. My ceiling leaked brown water for 3 months straight. The heat didn't work all winter. One time a pipe burst and flooded my entire kitchen, and when I called Dennis, he literally told me to use a mop and stop complaining. I'm a waitress making barely enough to survive, but I started taking pictures of everything. Every leak, every broken pipe, every cracked wall. I kept screenshots of all his rude texts. I even started recording our phone calls when he'd yell at me for asking about basic repairs. Then one night, my neighbor Kelly came pounding on my door crying. Her ceiling had completely caved in and crashed onto her bed. She could have died if she was sleeping there. Dennis told her it wasn't his problem, and she should find somewhere else to live if she didn't like it. That's when I'd had enough. I spent hours online researching tenant rights and found out Dennis owned dozens of buildings, all under different shell company names. Most people in our building had no idea what their legal rights were, but I did my homework. I started knocking on every door in the building. I organized my neighbors, and we filed joint complaints with the City Housing Authority. I reached out to legal aid services. Then I discovered something huge while digging through public records. Dennis had inherited this building from his uncle, but never legally transferred the deed into his name. On paper, he didn't even own the property he was collecting rent from. I spent 3 months quietly building a case against him. I documented everything, gathered witness statements from other tenants, and compiled a massive file of building code violations. Then on a rainy Tuesday morning, an investigator from the city's housing authority showed up at Dennis's door with a clipboard and a very serious attitude. Dennis tried to sweet-talk the guy, offering him coffee and making jokes about how tenants always complain about nothing. But when the investigator started listing off violation after violation, Dennis's face went completely white. The guy had photos of everything: the broken stairs, the mold in the basement, the faulty electrical work Dennis had been ignoring for years. By Friday, Dennis had a court date for operating an illegal rental property. He missed it because he was probably hiding somewhere. By the following month, the city had placed a lien on the entire building for unpaid fines and safety violations. Then came the best part. Dennis got an eviction notice. Turns out he'd been living rent-free in one of the supposedly vacant units while collecting money from all of us. The city found out he'd been pocketing tenant payments without actually owning the building legally. I watched from my window as Dennis carried out cardboard boxes and plastic bins to his beat-up pickup truck. He was yelling at anyone who'd listen, claiming this was all unfair and that his tenants were just ungrateful troublemakers. When he saw me watching, he screamed something about how I'd ruined his life. I just smiled, waved at him, and went back inside to turn up my space heater that was finally working, thanks to the city's emergency repair fund. A few weeks later, the building got sold to a nonprofit organization that actually cares about tenants. They froze everyone's rent at what we'd been paying and immediately started making real repairs. I stayed another whole year until I saved enough money for a down payment on my own condo. The day Dennis got evicted, I baked chocolate chip cookies and handed them out to all my neighbors. We sat on the front steps eating cookies and watching Dennis drive away for the last time. Kelly called it our Independence Day, and we still celebrate it every year.